Hey, welcome to the Corey McNabb podcast. I'm your host, Corey McNabb. If this is your first time listening or watching this podcast, first, I want to say thank you for tuning in. If it's not your first time, welcome back. So, this podcast is just an interview style podcast where I bring on a special guest and do some networking, ask some questions, and just have a good time. That's pretty much it. Speaking of which, our special guest today is Mr. John Maley. Welcome, John. How are you doing?
Great, man. How are you?
I'm good. So, John, give us a little bit of information about yourself.
Oh, man. So much cool stuff going on right now. Up until about 2 weeks ago, I was an engineer at General Motors, and that is no longer. And that was kind of the goal of mine I set out about a year ago. So it's pretty cool. Life's moving fast. But I live in Northern California. We moved here from Michigan about 2 years ago. That's a whole story in itself.
Oh yeah, big difference, I bet.
But I have, you have no idea. It was to be closer to family. I was an only child, and my only sibling was my brother-in-law, and he had kids, and we wanted our four kids to grow up with their or with my niece and nephew and their cousins. So it was something that I felt I was obligated to do just because I'm a big family guy, and that's what I wanted to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
So
you
yeah,
just left General Motors.
yes,
You
sir.
said 2 weeks ago.
Officially, I was I was probably tapped out mindset wise about 6 months ago, but yeah.
Okay, so tell us what made you decide now is the time to leave General Motors, and what are you doing now?
Yep. So my wife and I always kind of wanted to be on our own. Our biggest goal is to take on businesses together, to work together. We love being with each other,
Hmm.
and just started to happen. Like when you're an engineer and you work on a program in an engine, right? I did engine design, engine controls, and you work on that project for 4 years, and you give it everything you got, and then GM puts the engine out for a year, and then they can it. It was kind of like tough on you. Like you put in all this effort, all this time away from your family and things, and they just can it. So all that effort you put in just didn't really account to anything. And that when that happens a couple times, it's, make you wonder if you're in the right area.
Hmm. Okay, so
And so
you've wanted to buy into businesses, so I'm guessing that's what you and your wife are doing now.
no, it didn't go that smoothly. With GM, I was feeling not fulfilled. I wasn't happy. When I moved from Michigan to California, I took a full remote position, and I was sitting behind a computer, not talking to anyone. No one ever put their camera on. I felt very disconnected, and that is not me. I like to be out with people. I was a
Hmm.
college hockey player. I loved being around the guys. I loved just being in the community, and I felt totally disconnected. And so that started to wear on me a bit. And back in 2018, Whitney and I had started a Bernie Doodle breeding business, that we wanted to get going on this. And we're like, okay, we don't really know what we're doing, but we're going to get into it.
Hmm.
And so we started to build that, and you start to learn a lot of little skill sets that, you kind of need in business, sales and marketing and P&Ls and balance sheets and things like that. And it was like, okay, well, this thing's kind of taken off now. This thing's doing really well. And so I'm like, okay, well, this isn't enough. That got Whitney out of her nursing job. So she was able to get out of nursing during COVID, which was huge. And we didn't even, obviously, we didn't know COVID was going to happen, but it
Right.
just so happened that the Bernie Doodle business was doing well enough that we could pull her out of nursing at that time. And so, we went through COVID, and we were like, okay, this business thing's pretty cool. Um, and then we obviously had the move right from Michigan to California. So that took some time, but we found out while we were coming out to California that we're going to have another baby.
Oh,
So I actually got, yeah. So that was number two, or that was number three. And I get 12 weeks, paternity leave with General Motors, which is pretty awesome. I mean, I give
yeah.
them a lot of credit for that. And I'm like, well, what business could I start? I have 12 weeks off. So that's where Turo car rentals kind of came from. I thought it was a business I could do. I went out, I bought some cars that are good family cars, and that business kind of got a jump start. Was running that. I hired a car manager and I give her a certain percentage of the profit. So I don't really have to do anything. It's totally pretty much passive income. It's not huge income, but again, it was a learning. I learned how to hire an employee. I learned how to manage her. I learned how to communicate, pass on responsibility. And even though I'm not making as much money, I recovered 100% of my time.
Gotcha.
And so that was like 20, 21, 22. And I was like, okay, I'm been playing kind of small. It's time to make the jump. And that's kind of where I really started to look at options for leaving GM.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. So kind of in that progress, at what point did you find Project Forward? How did you get into that?
Yeah, man. I hired him, and I wasn't sure. It's kind of a funny story, and it's like, you look back and you're like, wow, that's how that happened. Uh, I joined a direct. We had another baby. Okay, so I started another business, and it was a direct sales business. And I'm like, okay, there's a skill set I need to learn here, and that's sales and talking with people and going through objections. And there's just a lot of things, and with a lot of direct sales companies, yeah, sometimes they get a bad rap, but if you look at them from a perspective of systems and processes and how to run things and back offices, like, it can teach you how to run a business really easy, especially if you choose the right one that has really good mentors. Well, the one I chose was like CBD products, weightlifting products, proteins, things like that. And the Jake Spencer, who was the CEO, was an amazing mentor and coach and teacher. And so he actually started this. It's mostly women doing this. The men were usually don't do it, but whatever, I did it. And he started this men's mentor group, and where he had like people like Jocko Willink and these high end, like mentors and leaders coming in and doing podcasts and Zooms with the guys in the group.
Mhm.
Well, then one of them suggested, you should read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I'm like, fine, I'll read the book, right? I'll just read it. So I read that book, man, and that opened up my eyes like crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing the right things. I'm a W-2, my 401k, what am I doing? And it just, I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm going to go buy real estate, right?
Mhm.
And you're like, okay, well, how do I do that? so so I almost bought a house, man. I almost pulled all the equity out of my house and went and bought a single home family residence in my backyard. I'm like, oh, it's going to cash like $200 a month. It'll grow, it'll appreciate. And then my wife's like, you want to get out of your job. This one thing is not going to help you. So that's when we're like, okay, well, what can I do? And I was listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast, and Chris Crone came on that show. I'm like, oh, I kind of like this guy. He's a lot of energy. He's talking real estate. He's talking business. He's talking all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll read his book, which is Have It All.
Mhm.
Great business book. Great about residential real estate in general. Like, it teaches you all the different ways you can invest in real estate. And basically through that, there's a way to get a hold of him. Right? Click on the link. Clicked on the link. Got a call from him, and I jumped into his investor club mentorship. That's where it all began, right there.
Gotcha. I'm sorry if you can hear my kids screaming in the background.
Yeah, I'm sure mine are screaming somewhere.
No. So, so I'm actually not familiar with that mentorship. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, so Chris is a guy that is huge into mindset. Like, he's been a part of Tony Robbins and Dean and a bunch of the mindset guys. But he's built over 6,000. He's had over 6,000 uh, uh, real estate deals, where he would bring in basically a money partner, which could be me. I'd bring in $50,000, and he'll take your funds and go find a single home that you can buy together, and he'll basically show you the process and how you take that one home, stay in it for 3 or 5 years, and then basically either cash out refi or go buy additional homes. And that was kind of what he was known for, but really he's more of like a mindset training guy. And then so you can join several different partnerships with him, just depending on what you're looking for. And I was looking for more. So I wanted to get into private equity. I wanted to get into business ownership, franchising. And so he has something called Investor Club. And it wasn't cheap, but I looked at it as education, right? And like, hey, what I'm going to learn so much from this guy. So we get weekly meetings. We get a lot of one-on-one time with him. I can text him and ask him questions. I have investor club meetings a couple times a year. But it also gets me into his private equity fund, where he has several businesses that he's looking at building and growing into billion-dollar businesses that I can invest in. So it just gave me a lot of different things. I got into whole life policy that I can borrow against my death benefit that several times now, and I just pay myself back. And I've learned a ton, but in all areas of business. We have a thing called Financial Genius once a week, where he brings on an expert, and I mean, it could be real estate, it could be tax strategy, it could be whole life, it could be buying businesses, exit strategies, creative financing, like you name it, man. He brings somebody to the table every week. And I've just got really involved in his mentorship. And, you know, he does funding for like, he helped Ukraine. He did several Ukraine trips where they went out on the front lines and helped save people. So I really just believe in what he's doing and what he offers. And, you know, he does this to help people. So through that mentorship, that's where I learned about franchising, which is another thing I'm into. Buying businesses, real estate, short-term rentals, commercial real estate. Those are all things that I've kind of jumped into.
Gotcha. So I'm guessing through that mentorship, that's where you stumbled upon Pace Morby and like the Gator program and all that stuff.
Sort of in a roundabout way. Are you familiar with Carlos Reyes and Sal?
Yes.
National Cash Offer. So Chris does buy and hold strategy. He is an expert in buy and hold. He knows exactly what markets to buy, and he buys below the median, gets a good price, you know, starts to rent it out, cash flows it, and decides after 3 to 5 years what to do. And the idea is you buy one, hold it for 3 to 5 years, do a 1031 or whatever you're going to do, cash out refi, and buy 2 more, and then buy 4, buy 12. Well, Chris did that in 4 years and had 15 to 20 homes, and that's what made him basically have cash or financial freedom at the age of 26. Well, Carlos went the other direction. He did, you know, Carlos has a great story if you ever can listen to Carlos's story, but he talks about, he does mostly wholesaling, and he just started out small, didn't really know what he's doing. He'll tell you his bandit sign stories, and any way he could do it. And he kind of learned it from the ground up. And say, I'll create an awesome business. Well, Chris was looking for a partner kind of in the other realm of things, right? Opposite of buy and hold would be kind of wholesaling, flipping.
Right.
So he brought Carlos on stage with him at what we call these Unleash Your Financial Destiny, which are amazing life-changing events. And forget what you learn about business, man. That what you learn about yourself and your mindset and what you think and your thoughts and how they lead to your actions is pretty incredible. It was life-changing. But Carlos came on and spoke, and then they were going to launch this new thing called Property. And Property was either going to be a franchise or some partnership with Carlos and Chris, where you could either do a wholesale, a flip, or a buy and hold. And that's mostly like it's supposed to be business in a box. But right now it's a pilot program. We're very early. We're just kind of trying to figure out the pieces of it. But when I joined that, I'm like I don't know anything about creative finance. Like I understand the wholesale strategy, but what if I can't wholesale? What if I can't do a cash offer? Then what do I do? And so I'm like, Whitney's like, you need to listen. My wife, she's like, you need to listen to Pace. I'm like, why didn't you tell me that a year ago? She's like, well, you had enough going on. I didn't want to you're doing your own thing. So I got on Pace then, and then what I've learned from Pace has been incredible. And Carlos does teach that, but like they're trying to go at a certain rate, and my rate is like a rocket ship. I go fast, and I love to learn it, and so I'm to digest as much content as I could. And then when I got into Pace and I realized what Gator lending was, I'm like, oh man, I'm getting this kind of windfall of cash from leaving General Motors. I'm going to have an option to do a lot. I could do lending, and seems like a great way to take that funds I have, where I don't really want to invest them because I mean they're there as my backup, right? But I'm okay lending on it short term. That'll give me a decent return on investment with Gator. So that's how I got into that, man. That was like, I mean, you got to remember, I joined Chris Cronin end of August last year. And so all this stuff has happened in the last year. So it's
Nice.
moving quick.
Awesome. Well, so I guess that comes down to what do you need? What is something that you need help with throughout all your businesses or your lending, or what is something that you need help with that possibly I could help, or maybe one of our viewers could reach out and help you out with?
I mean, so my biggest thing is, and this is where I struggle in my mind a lot, is I have 4 young kids, man. I got a 9-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 2-year-old. An awesome wife. You know, she's still a nurse right now, just because we had to bridge our gaps in some of our investments.
Hmm.
You know, we didn't even talk about Pure Life Medical, which is a franchise I have that's in process of being built. I'm in the middle of an SBA loan. So there's one area, like I'm in the middle of SBA, and if SBA falls through on that, I would be in a world of hurt. I've invested a lot into that business, but my biggest issue is time. And this is probably a common theme, but when I jump into things, I go hard.
Hmm.
And for me, I need to balance the time I'm putting into my businesses and the time with my family. But it's tough because everything I'm doing is for them, to give them experiences, to give us a life that we're looking to have, and to fulfill my dreams of helping people and helping solve problems in the world, right? And I
Hmm.
need money to do that as a resource. And so for one thing, like getting loans on this Pure Life Medical franchise, I mean, I've been at this for 7 months. And so it's delaying me from opening. So funding, I guess, for a 10 to 12 year, 8 to 12 year, loan, um, you know, organizing time to make sure that you're allocating time to all your businesses, but leaving enough time for the family. That's a big one. Um, yeah, that's mostly the biggest two right now that I'm at.
Gotcha. So you have the loan in process. Um, have you done any, like, trying to raise private funds for it, or are you just going straight loan route?
I was going straight loan route, but that's what another thing I've been looking into. And I looked into other options for lending, like doing like a base loan from one company and then doing like a line of credit from another, just as working capital, so I don't have to take it all out if I don't need it, and then the line of credit would allow me to kind of use it if I have to. Um, but yeah, the other option was I considered was raising private money and possibly giving up a little bit of equity, so I don't have to, be sole cash into it, and I can use my funds to invest in other endeavors.
Gotcha. Okay, and this was for what is this company you're trying to start?
It's called Pure Life Medical. So it's a fairly new franchise. It was started 3 years ago. There's 10 open. I would say only three of those have been open more than a year. But it's regenerative health, proactive health. So you're talking like IV therapy, microcurrent for pain, weight loss tools, hormone replacement therapy. You got stem cell in there, light bed therapy, like 10 or 12 modalities that just help you heal from the inside out. So I was really drawn to it for the ability to help people, to help solve problems, to make people more healthy. I went on quite the health journey myself of losing over 110 pounds at
Oh,
one point,
nice.
4 or 5 years ago. And I know what it takes to do that. It really has nothing to do with, it does have a lot to do with nutrition and working out and moving, but a lot of it was mindset, because mindset is usually what drives the nutrition issue. And so I learned so much. And so I want to kind of give back in that realm and help people lose weight and attack it from a mental standpoint, rather than necessarily go eat this and do this and you'll be fine, because it's just not that easy. It's more up here.
Right.
um, and so yeah, I jumped in, I bought it into it. There's obviously a franchise fee there. It's in Reno, Nevada. So I own the territory of Northern Nevada, which means I'm a master franchisee, so I actually own the licenses in that area. So eventually, as I fill those, I will get a 3% royalty, or a royalty from them. And then I will own my own clinic as well, which will cash flow. And my plan is to put someone in place to basically run that clinic, so I'm not there doing the day to day,
Hmm.
just running it from an owner standpoint. So yeah, that's kind of where that is. And I've been trying to get lending, and it's just, you need all these different steps for them with GC bids and contracts and a lease signed, and it just is taking so long that it's just literally, I'm just losing money by the day because I have money invested and I'm not seeing a return yet.
Gotcha. If you don't mind, I'd like to sidetrack because I'm really interested. What did you one what finally happened that pushed you to the point that you decided to get into that health kick where you ended up losing weight? But then, like, did you follow a program or how did that come about?
Yeah, man, it's kind of a depressing story a little bit, but I will tell
Uh,
it. So I was working all those hours, right? I was working
mhm.
for GM, and I was working probably 70, 80 hours a week. I mean, I'm saying getting home at 2 in the morning, getting up at 6, building for an 8 a.m. meeting based on the data I mean, it was insane what I was doing. And dude, I missed a lot of time with my son, my 2-year-old at that time, my 9-year-old now. And I was losing myself. I was losing what I was meant to do. And I just lost control of myself, right? I wasn't taking care of myself anymore. Late nights mean eating out, bad diet. And just kind of since I finished playing college hockey in 2007. I was in fantastic shape. And just through 2016, I just kept gaining weight, and I would try to lose it. It would come back. And it's a lot of it's just yo-yo dieting, and I could explain why it happens. But at the end of the day, I saw the scale tip to 308, and I was like, this is crazy. And kind of at the same time, Whitney and I were trying to have our second baby, and we couldn't have it. I had nothing to give. So the way I had treated my body didn't allow me to actually have kids. I had no count.
Mm.
And that was a pretty big gut punch. And like knowing that you caused an issue and that you can't have any more kids was a pretty tough blow. And I think that's what tipped it. Obviously, that was a pretty big thing. There was a lot of things that could have, and it seemed to never work. But that one hit home. And so immediately when I found that out, I walked into a gym that I've been driving by for the last 2 years and said, "Hey, I need help. Can you help me?" And this was an amazing community gym. We lived in a great community in Michigan, and it's a smaller town. And it was like a CrossFit kind of facility.
Mhm.
And I got right in. Of course, I loved it. I mean, I'm a hockey player. Like, what hockey player doesn't love CrossFit? And I started working out every single morning. I got with a great crew, great friends now, great community, and they make sure you come every day. John, we're going to see you there, right? You're going to be there. Yep. Okay. What time are you going to be there, John? Let's go for a run before. Hey, let's run 2 miles after this. Like, and they just push you, and that's what I needed. Um, but on the other side of the fence was nutrition, and I tried doing it, and so like my gym put me on a diet where basically I was eating my metabolic rate. So that would be like 2,000 calories. And for a 300-pound guy eating 2,000 calories, that's really low.
Yeah.
It basically my metabolic rate. So it was like what I would burn in a coma, right? So yes,
Mhm.
I lost weight quick between working out, doing the CrossFit, and just eating 2,000 calories. And I was eating the macros. So I was eating a certain protein, fats, and carbs. I think it was a 40-40-20 or whatever
Mhm.
the breakout was. But at some point, I got stuck. I got stuck at like 230. And I was like, well, this is great. My goal is 230, right? I get to 230. I'm like, yeah, I still want more. I still want to do more. I want to be in better shape. I want to have a better physique. I want to feel healthier. Still didn't feel really healthy. And because I was eating such a little amount of calories. So I joined a mentorship, right? This is a common theme here. I joined a
Yeah.
mentorship because I didn't know what to do. And again, it was all mindset. So I got into If It Fits Your Macros. It was it was owned by Anthony Kalova. I think he's actually the new owner again now. And I joined what's called Legacy Club or Legacy Group, and we had meetings twice a week. We
Mhm.
talk about what's going on. And he is such a huge guy into self-care, gratitude, attitude, positivity, uh, do so you can do it, positive outlook. And he started me having doing stuff like brushing my teeth with my left hand, switching the feet I start putting my clothes on with, just introducing change into my life because I wasn't comfortable with change. Um, And so through those weekly meetings, he also looks at your macros and your calories. And so I was stuck, and he's like, okay, John, I'm going to put you at 2750 calories. I'm like, you're what? He's like, 2750. I'm like, why? He's like, you got to trust me. Give me 4 weeks. And I said, okay, what if in 2 weeks it doesn't work? He goes, in 2 weeks, you're going to gain 10 pounds. I'm like, okay. So I'm going to go for it. So I started eating 2750 in the macros that he suggested. And I did. I went up from like 230 to like 238. And then within the next 4 months, 5 months, whatever it was, I dropped below 200.
Still eating 2750?
Yeah. I mean, after like 4 or 5 months, we started to bring it down to like 26.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, after, 4, it dropped a significant amount of weight. And the idea is that my body needed more fuel. You think of a fire, right? If you have a fire and you don't feed it wood, it's not going to grow. It's not going to burn. I mean, your body's similar. You need fuel to burn. And so it could be, okay, at 2,700, I was more fidgety, my legs bouncing. Maybe my workouts were stronger. I had more energy later in the day. I didn't need that nap in the afternoon or whatever it was. It allowed me to have, higher non-exercise calorie burn, but also energy through the day. So I think it was just that combination. I actually ended up getting down to about 190. And again, I was still working out, but a lot of the stuff that changed was my mindset about it and how I thought about food and emotional eating. And I would say that was the biggest part of it. And then just to close it out. So our second baby was IVF. So we had to do in vitro. I couldn't have a kid other than that way. And then in 2018 and 2021, we got pregnant naturally without IVF naturally. So, and then in 2022, we had another baby. So I'm pretty solid in that area
Awesome.
now. But it's amazing that your diet and your nutrition and how you take care of yourself can affect whether or not you can have kids. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. The reason I was interested is actually me and my wife, we kind of started our health kick the beginning of this year.
Nice.
We found 75 hard and just dove into that. And so like, I know there's a whole, I don't know if you've heard of 75 hard, but there's actually a whole live hard program. 75 hard's like the boot camp for it. And then it's a whole year long program.
Yep.
But
Where?
so I just finished actually just about a week ago. I completed it's called phase 2, but it's really the third phase of it. And for that 30-day period, I actually did carnivore, where I was just eating beef or animal products and stuff. And just in 30 days, I ended up dropping 13 or 14 pounds.
Yep.
So now I've got a wait period, and I start phase 3 in December. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, it's
good job.
It's been crazy. I started this year at 260, and now I'm around 220. So
perfect. It's amazing. Good job, man. Keep that going, and it's consistency. And one of the things I do is fitness coaching on the side, just because I've been through and I want to help people. So I coach a lot of mindset. We do breakthrough. We try to understand the limiting beliefs that are holding you back from getting where you want to go. And that's a lot of it. And then the biggest thing, and that's what 75 hard does, is consistency. Staying consistent and just continuing with it and going with it until you need to make an adjustment, instead of just bouncing back and forth between different ideas.
Right. All right. Well, that was awesome. I just have a few more questions for you. So first off, I know you've mentioned a couple books today. Is there a specific mindset book that you would recommend?
Yeah, the best one I've probably come across, and it's pretty common, but it's helped me a ton, is Think and Grow Rich. And you can't just listen to it once. That's the key. So I'll get on the treadmill in the morning. I have what I call power hour. I'll do the treadmill. I'll do meditation. I go through visionary stuff, where I want to go. I give gratitude to my family, my kids, my life, and God, and just, and during that time, I'll listen to a book as well. And so I will continuously listen to Think and Grow Rich, because I just get that mindset shift every day, and then I learn something new from it all the time. So I think that's just an amazing book, but you got to read it more than once.
Yep. I've only been through it once so far, so I'm planning on.
Do
We've
it
got a
again.
whole list of books we're trying to go through now. So,
All right, love it.
Awesome. Yeah, that is definitely a good one. What about a business book?
I would say if you haven't started anything yet, I would do Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then the 4 quadrants following that. That was huge for me. I mean, that totally shifted my mindset like immediately. Like, I mean, that book changed my life right there. That's it. So I can't go without mentioning that. But I'd say the second one, kind of once you're like, okay, I do want to get into real estate, or I want to move on, Have It All is Chris Crohn's version, and it's about learning about finances, relationships, taking care of yourself, self-care, um, and then self-power, really, like having power over yourself and what your thoughts are, and understanding why you're thinking something, and breaking through it, and doing something positive with it instead of continuously staying in victimhood and living in the negative. So for me, Have It All would be an awesome addition to anybody's book collection.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely look into that one.
It's a great audiobook too. Like he sidetracks in the audiobook. It's pretty funny.
No,
And so you actually get a little more out of it, I think, with the audio in that one.
gotcha. I've found. Let's see. I've been reading Alex Hormozy's $100 Million Offers.
I am in the middle of that. I'm almost there. I'm almost done with that one.
Yeah, I've listened to the audio version, not all the way through, but his little note of listening and reading at the same time. I've actually found that for me, I get the same amount of retention if I actually read the book aloud.
Oh,
So, and that's been a way for me to, in a way, also teach, like, because I'll read them to my wife and stuff. And so not only am I hearing it, reading it, but also that sense of teaching it. So it helps retain things a little bit more.
yeah. I'm a hack on the Audible or listening audio wise is crank up the speed to 1.5 or 2 times. Your brain can process it faster than you think. And honestly, like if I'm listening to it at standard speed, I start to think about other things. But if it's like at 1.5 or 2x, I have to really focus in, and you do hear it. But if you're struggling to hear that, crank it up to 2.5 for a little bit, and then bring it back down to like 1.75, and it won't seem fast. So that's
There
a
you
little
go.
hack on the Audible.
There you go. All right, John. So I like to imagine each person's path as like you're on a step on a ladder, right? So from where you started to where you're going, at somewhere on that ladder, you're on a certain rung. So what is some advice that you would give to someone who's just one or two rungs below you?
And 1 or 2 rungs below me at this point is still someone pretty new into this. And I think I would say just take action. You got to do something. Like me taking action the last year has opened up so much opportunity. I mean, just yesterday I had the opportunity to get equity in 2 businesses, and that would have never opened up had I not taking some steps. As soon as you take a step, you're going to learn something, and it's either going to be something good or something bad. If it's great, continue. If it's not, learn from it and move to another direction. Like just taking action has taught me so much. And have I had to go into debt a little bit to do this? Absolutely. But I believe in where I'm going, and I know that this path is going to take me to do amazing things in the world, and it's worth it.
Awesome. And then the last thing, John, where can people get in contact with you, or where can they find your content?
I'm on Facebook, John Maley. It's a picture of me and my little kids. Or Instagram works too, at John Maley 9. And either of those will work. Shoot me a message, and I'd love to connect with you. I do a lot of lifestyle coaching, whether it's break through your limiting beliefs. I do game planning for just trying to show you my path and kind of some opportunities that are out there. Like, would you ever have considered franchising as a business? I never thought
I mean,
about it.
I've thought about it before, but I don't know enough about it to, actually
Yeah,
dive
I mean,
into it
neither
yet.
did I, but I found the right people. right? So I do a lot of game planning, like, hey, where you're at right now, these are your options. Did you consider this? Did you consider that? Oh, well, you don't have the money. Well, did you think about these three things? So that's something I do. And I still do the fitness coaching on the side. If someone really, really needs help that, is going to put in the effort, I will take the time to help them. So those are always an option. I have a Calendly link I could probably drop you that we could use to schedule meetings if someone's interested.
Yeah, that's great. If you send that to me, I'll put it in the link, or I'll put the link in the description, so that
All right,
people
awesome.
can reach out to you.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, John, it was good talking to you. I learned a lot. I think you've got an awesome story. So I hope we can keep connected and hopefully get to do some business in the future.
Yeah, I love it, man. We need to do something together here.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you get back to your dogs and your kids and family and all that.
Thanks,
And
man.
hope you have a
Yep,
wonderful day,
sounds good.
John.
All right, thanks, Corey. Have a good one.
Well, that was our show, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I learned a lot. I thought it was a great show. Again, go follow John. Um, I'll put his information in the description below. And yeah, I can't wait to see y'all on the next one. And hope you'll have a wonderful day.